Hey, what's going on, everybody? My name is Matt Jarbo. This is $3 Theater. And back in 2010, I remember getting excited hearing the news that Fox was going to reboot the X-Men franchise with First Class, that they wanted Bryan Singer to do it. He couldn't do it because he was working on something else. I think it was a movie that failed ultimately. But they went with Matthew Vaughn to come on in and to quickly turn this film around. He started production of the movie really in like around April or May of 2010 and had the movie on screen by June 2011. And it was a good movie. In fact, there are many people out there that look at First Class as being up there with X-Men and X-Men 2 in terms of quality. And a lot of people loved what he brought to the table and were hoping that he would go on to continue making these films. Instead, he actually went on to go and do Kingsman 1 and Kingsman 2, which I both love both of those. And he's also going to be doing, and this is true, Kingsman the Great Game, which is a prequel starring Liam Neeson, and Kingsman 3, which will then round out the trilogy of Eggsy's story. And I think that's going to be very fun when those things happen. So you might be asking yourself, well, why are we talking about Matthew Vaughn today? Is there big announcement, a big reveal of sorts? And the truth of the matter is, yeah, kind of, because it says here that he details his defunct plans for X-Men First Class trilogy. Now that was the thing, remember, right? We got a really great X-Men First Class, and then a couple years later came Days of Future Past, which arguably is an amazing film. All right, it's an amazing film that Bryan Singer came back. He did a great job with it, and then we had Apocalypse, which was not good. And then now we get the last movie next week. And but still, what exactly would Matthew Vaughn have done? And would it have ultimately been better than what we got? And I think the answer to that is, yeah, 100% actually, because this is what he says. He says here, that's one of the reasons why I didn't continue, because they didn't listen to me. My plan was First Class. The second film was a new young Wolverine in the 1970s to continue those characters. My version of the X-Men, so you'd get to really know all of them. And my finale was going to be Days of Future Past. That was going to be my number 3 when you bring them all, because what's bigger than bringing in McKellen and Michael and Stewart and James and bringing them all together? When I finished the Days of Future Past script with it, I was ready to go. I looked at it and said, I really think it would be fun to cast Tom Hardy or someone as the young Wolverine and then bring it all together in the end. Fox read Days of Future Past and went, oh, this is too good, we're doing it now. And I said, well, what are you going to do next? Trust me, you've got nowhere to go. Then they did Apocalypse, and it's like, well, if you flip that around, even it would have been better. Hollywood doesn't understand pacing. Their executives are driving 100 miles per hour, looking in the rearview mirror and not understanding why they crash. And you know what? That is 100% accurate. That's 100% accurate. Think about it like this. Matthew Vaughn, who is a very talented filmmaker. Kick-Ass was great. Stardust was phenomenal. Layer Cake was amazing. I mean, this dude is top tier in so many ways and never gets the love he deserves, in my opinion, or the respect he deserves, in my opinion, from Hollywood. But he's 100% right there when it comes to pacing, especially the executives at Fox dealing with X-Men. Let's go back to 2004? Or was it 2003, 2004 when X-Men 2 came out? I want to say it was 03. I don't know. I don't remember what year it came out. But at the end of that movie, they set up the Dark Phoenix saga, and fans were like losing their mind. Jean Grey dies. We see the Phoenix silhouette at the end of that movie over Alkali Lake. Then 2006 Memorial Day weekend, here comes X-Men The Last Stand, giving us the Dark Phoenix storyline. And it was, a lot of people say terrible. I'm just going to agree with you. I'm going to half agree. Parts of it were bad, but I really do enjoy parts of that film. I think there was a certain aesthetic to it at the time that just worked for me, but I haven't watched it in like 10 years, so I need to go back and watch it again. It probably didn't age very well at all, but that kind of felt like a culmination of those films. And then, of course, after that, we ended up getting Wolverine a couple years later, and that movie was pretty bad, and that just had a lot to do with Fox not understanding how to break these stories down. But then James Mangold came in, gave us the Wolverine, and then gave us Logan, which really rounded out that character and gave us a solid finale. And it's one that a lot of people don't want to see it go back to. Logan was great. End Wolverine right there. And Hugh Jackman, recast him for being in the Marvel movies now and be done with it. But they still never got it because they wanted, I don't know what they wanted back then. They were the ones that were controlling it. They were the ones that were ruling the roost. I mean, remember, we had Fantastic Four, then Fantastic Four Rise of Silver Surfer. And the first one was serviceable. The second one still kind of serviceable, but had a lot of problems. It's because back then they didn't have anyone that truly understood comics. They just looked at what was pseudo popular. They wanted to adapt these things. They knew that they would be money making machines, and I don't think they really cared about the source material as much as we've come to care about the source material as time has gone on. And perhaps it was like technological limitations. In fact, with Matthew Vaughn in First Class, there was a lot of technological limitations. He had originally written a sequence for the film that was going to play out like the hallway scene in Inception, that he scrapped it last minute because he saw Inception and went like, well, shit, I can't do that. But then, of course, even the visual effects, due to the 11-month turnaround from trying to get the film shot, going through production, post-production, and then into theaters, there were some elements of that movie that just didn't really work out because of that. In fact, I was at a party in LA once, and this woman comes over to me and this guy talking, and we were at a Destructoid E3 party in 2011, and she was, look, I'm not going to lie here, she was clearly the hottest woman there. LA 10. I'm not even making that up. LA 10. And she comes over and she starts talking to me. And I thought it was kind of weird because, and so anyway, so we're talking for a few minutes, and she asks me out of the blue, she goes, did you happen to see X-Men First Class? And I thought that's a very odd and specific question. And I'm all like, well, clearly the answer to that is, yeah, I did. And she's like, what did you think of the visual effects? I'm like, again, very odd, specific question. I said, I thought that they were good considering the fact that the film was rushed to get made. And she's like, no one here knows that. And I'm like, that's kind of what I do. I mean, it's kind of what I do. And she's like, no, my dad worked on those. My dad did the visual effects for the movie. So I thought that was kind of funny. I don't know why I'm sharing it with you, but I just kind of feel that I always thought that was kind of funny. To be in that position, to be in that kind of specific situation. And you can see that even the visual effects artists were frustrated because they had to cram it all together in such a short amount of time, as evidenced by this guy's daughter who was talking to some random Kevin Smith lookalike at a Destructoid party in downtown Hollywood. It's how the business works, my friends. Anyway, Vaughn is entirely right. Hollywood doesn't understand pacing. They don't understand a lot of how to create long arcs. And that's one of the reasons why a lot of these particular shows or these particular franchises, I think, are bringing in TV people, because TV people are there for the long story. They're telling you the long arc. And that is something that audiences look to. I mean, look at what happened with Kevin Feige and Marvel. They set up the Infinity Saga over 11 years with 22 films. Not everything dealt with it specifically, but it still had a grand culmination because they were able to sense the beats that needed to be there and then hit those beats and then move on to the next project. And that is how TV showrunners do it. And that's a problem when you get to film executives. Film executives aren't looking at the long payout. They're looking at the short, the immediate, and what they can do to get their investors to be happy, to get enough money to make the next one. That's all they care about, right? Just they want to pump it and dump it, just like the fathers that left their mothers. Anyway, that's the whole point, is this is where we are. So Vaughn is right, and they should bring him in to do more projects, post the Kingsman films. They should get him into Marvel and everything else. But I don't know if he'd do well with Marvel, to be fair, because I think him and Feige would clash. But anyway, him throwing shade at Fox's X-Men films, 100% warranted, and he's 100% right. And I leave it to you, your thoughts, your opinions. Let me know down in the comments below. Be sure to like the video, thumbs it up, all that jazz. I'll talk to you guys later. Have yourself a great day, and peace out.